The prisoners were not what the lieutenant had expected, although he wasn't quite sure what he had been expecting, other than not these two. He fixed the pair of them with his most intimidating, serious stare. One of the prisoners smiled warmly back. The other one wore a slightly confused expression, as though he recognized the lieutenant from somewhere and was trying to place him. The fact that the lieutenant knew he'd never seen him before in his life didn't stop him from trying to remember where they'd met. The man appeared to be in his 30s, but at the same time looked to be very old. It was the eyes. There was something in his gaze that suggested he'd seen more than the lieutenant ever had or ever would. Or maybe it was a trick of the light. He had shoulder-length hair that made him look as if he was trying to imitate Lord Byron, an impression not helped by the fact that he seemed to be actually dressed like Lord Byron. He was decidedly not the kind of person the lieutenant would have expected to break into a secure military base. But then neither was his companion. The other prisoner, the one who was cheerily smiling at him in response to his intimidating, serious stare, was a girl. Quite a pretty girl, the lieutenant would have happily noted had he met her under any other circumstances. She couldn't be much more than 18 or 19. She should have seemed like a perfectly sweet, normal girl, but her clothes made Lord Byron look quite down to earth. She was wearing the kind of sparkly purple catsuit that people wore in science fiction shows on television, underneath a black leather jacket. Her hair was cut short, and the lieutenant had to admit it looked good on her. "I hope you two realise that you're in a lot of trouble," he said in a voice which he hoped was stern and official, but also charming. "Oh, I don't know," said the man dressed as Lord Byron. "As far as trouble goes, I'd say we've been in far more." "Oh, yes," said the girl. "This is refreshingly light and straightforward, as trouble we've been in goes." "There you are, you see," said the man, now also smiling at the lieutenant. "We're not in so much trouble as you think we are, so there's really nothing to worry about. Though, of course, it's nice that you were concerned, Captain." "It's Lieutenant," said the lieutenant, again wishing that he could be asleep. Maybe he was asleep, and this was all a dream. That would mean that he'd somehow dreamt up these two, though, and what would that say about him? "I don't think the two of you appreciate just how much trouble you're in. I'm sure this is all just a simple misunderstanding," the man said, still smiling. The lieutenant couldn't quite believe that he'd said that. But then he still couldn't quite believe that the pair of them were there at all. "A misunderstanding? You were found in a restricted area of a top-security military base in the small hours of the morning during a high alert while standing over the unconscious body of a soldier who has now turned into a 5-year-old, while holding..." At this point, the lieutenant looked down at the table to see exactly what they'd been holding when they'd been caught. Perhaps they would help to make sense of the night's events. What he saw seemed to dash his hopes. A butterfly net, a small white plastic sphere with a tiny hole in the centre, and half a packet of rich tea biscuits. He looked up at the pair of faces smiling innocently across the table at him. "Do you have anything to say for yourselves?" The girl turned to her companion. "When he puts it like that, Doctor, it sounds almost as if we'd done something wrong." The other one replied, "You may have a point. Is your soldier all right?" The lieutenant bristled. "He said something about there being a big bug, but we found him a cuddly rabbit, and he's now sleeping quite peacefully in sickbay. Now, are you going to cooperate?" The one called Doctor turned to his companion. "Do you know, Charlie, I think we probably ought to explain things to the lieutenant," he said. The girl, Charlie, didn't seem convinced. "Doctor, I'm not sure if you've considered this, but there is just the slightest chance that he might not believe us. It's a slim chance, I know, but it's one that we ought to consider." "Nonsense," said the doctor, smiling at the lieutenant. "I'm sure he is a reasonable, understanding and open-minded man who will trust us if we just tell him the truth." The lieutenant felt he was expected to say something at this point. "I just need you to tell me how you got in here and why, and whether you had anything to do with the incident on the training exercise yesterday." "What incident on the training exercise?" Charlie asked, but the doctor interrupted before the lieutenant could answer. "Incident on the training exercise! Ah, now I know when we are. Well, that explains why there's an army lieutenant on an RAF base. And it means that you can rest assured that the incident had nothing to do with us. It'll all get sorted out soon, I'm sure." "It is nothing to do with us, then?" Charlie seemed to be looking.